Well, as you can see, we've decided to go for a winter backpacking trip. And it's supposed to get down to 15 degrees tonight, so we know it's going to be cold, about a 7-mile-an-hour wind. So what we've been doing is trying to find a good spot to set our tent. Right here we have a good wind block. Got a good block right here, fairly flat spot. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something where we get as much wind block and safety protection as possible, and a flat spot to set our tent, and including nearby firewood and a place to build a fire. One thing is, as you can see, the sun's going down. So we need to really get on the move. So the first thing we're going to do now that we're to our site is we're going to set our gear down and get our tent and everything set up, and then the next couple hours we'll be finding as much firewood as we can for the night. Right now all I'm trying to do is just clear a spot for the tent. If I had a lot of time, I'd end up pulling down all that grass right there and use that as an insulating layer underneath the tent. This is a freestanding tent, but in the winter time you never know how the wind's going to pick up, etc. There's a lot of snow, so I'm going to stake it down if I can. Okay, we got the tent up. Cleared a little spot in the front where we're going to put all of our gear. And then I think I'll have my handy dandy wife get her backpack in the tent and start pulling out her sleeping system.
Alright, so I'm going to take my big Agnes triple core sleeping pad off my backpack and set it up inside the tent. So I brought a negative 20-degree bag. It's actually a lot of extra weight, but since staying warm is probably the most important thing to me, besides having food and water, it's worth it to me to bring the extra weight to stay warm.
These synthetic bags, even though they weigh a lot more and they're harder to pack away, it's nice in the wintertime just for that purpose. So another thing you did down there, it looks like you laid down just a really lightweight emergency blanket.
Yeah.
To maybe reflect back a little bit more body heat.
I'm hoping, because if I'm cold, I'm miserable.
Okay, now the work's going to begin. We're going to try to find firewood, and we need to find dry, dead firewood. The hard time in the winter is all of these bushes and different trees don't have leaves on them, so it's kind of hard for some people to tell what's dead and what's alive. So I want clearly dead and dry. You can tell, especially when it's broken off and hanging, odds are there's a good chance it's dried out. Now, one thing about choosing this camp location, we want to be close to firewood. You can see how nice it is to have the firewood right next to the tent.
Yeah. So while I was getting firewood, I realized that my hair was stuck to my back. And I thought that was a little weird. So then I thought, well, maybe there was something live in my hair. Who knows? You're in the mountains, right? But I have these little burrs stuck in my hair and stuck on my shirt. It's kind of weird how a plant can just attack you.
Okay, to make our fire pit. Actually, you want to clear out a spot, get the snowpack down pretty well. Obviously, get in a spot where it's not going to have any risk of getting your tent, any of your gear damaged. Try to clear out as close to the ground as you can, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but what I did is I made a bed to set the fire, to start the fire on. So I broke a bunch of larger chunks of wood. That's going to be what the fire starts on. That way, as the fire grows, it'll slowly burn down to this, and hopefully the ground's cold and wetness, by the time this burns through, it won't be an issue.
Raging campfire in the mountains.
So, hon,
Yes.
what do you think of your first overnight backpacking into the mountains, into the snow?
Well, let's just say that this is one of the things I said I would never do. And yeah, no, this is pretty awesome. There's stars in the sky. There's no people. And
no mosquitoes.
No mosquitoes. That's a huge plus. And we can stay warm with the fire. Right. So yeah, you really feel, because normally when you're sitting in front of a fire, your back is cold. So if you can have something like this set up behind you, it really reflects the heat really well and makes it pretty toasty warm.
It's also toasty warm since we brought a bottle of Crown.
Well, that can help a little bit.
That always helps the overnight hiking snow trip.
I would highly recommend it. Life is short and we're not getting any younger, so I really don't want to look back on my life and think, ooh, wow, wish I would have tried that. Which I never really thought that I would want to try camping out in the winter when it's like 22 degrees. It's actually supposed to get 15 degrees tonight. Yeah, and I don't feel freezing.
I know, it's pretty cool, huh?
It is cool, because I don't like to be cold, so that was my biggest fear about camping out overnight in the winter, is being cold, because I am absolutely miserable if I'm cold. But you get a good fire going, you don't have to be cold.
Well, you just got to get the right setup. You got to get yourself, you set your camp up in, you know, woods, trees, all the stuff you can for blocking the wind, keeping the area around you warmer.
Yep.
Get a nice flat spot. Try to camp close to your firewood. So that way, I mean, our firewood's only, 20 feet from here.
Yeah.
Took us about a half an hour to get at least 6 to 8 hours worth of burn, you know, wood to burn. We've been sitting here for 3 hours having a nice fire.
Yeah.
It's pretty slick.
It's pretty awesome. I would definitely do it again. Ask me again at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's supposed to be 15 degrees and I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag and I'm not near the fire. That might be a different story, but we'll see. But so far, I would do this again. I have a down jacket in there in the tent, but I haven't had to put it on yet, so that's kind of interesting. It's 20 degrees out and I haven't had to put on my long down jacket yet. So either I'm really super tough, which I doubt, or this fire is nice and warm.
And what time is it right now? It's 7 o'clock, so the sun went down, I think, before 5. So we've been sitting out here just a couple hours. We just cooked some top ramen. We're sipping on some Crown, sitting around the fire, and probably going to have a nice mountain house chicken casserole just before we go to bed. As if you will eat a high-calorie meal, it'll keep you warmer. Admittedly, too, we have insulated sleeping pads, you know, sleeping bags that are rated below 20, and we also have a lot of hand warmers that we will put in our booties, put in our socks. Really keeps you warm if you put them in your armpits or between your legs by your femoral artery. All that stuff keep you really warm.
And I plan on doing all of that to stay really warm.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see in the morning if I still feel like, yeah, I would do this again.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Good morning, honey.
Good morning. I actually survived. It's kind of crazy.
How was it?
My boots are frozen together.
We might want to warm those up for a couple minutes by the fire before you get out.
Okay. Well, it was actually not too bad. When I first went to bed, my feet or my toes were really, really cold. And I brought these little hand warmers that start out as gel and then you click this thingy and then they get super warm. And those warmed up my toes and made it a lot more peaceful.
So what did you do? You stuck them inside your socks?
I did. I stuck them in the bottom part of my socks underneath my toes. And so those warmed up my toes actually pretty instantly. Really, it's not that bad. It's really not.
Well, good.
So,
good morning, honey. We got a fire going. Got some snow melting. We'll have some coffee soon.
Okay. Sounds
I'm going to do a quick panoramic of our scenario here. And here is the sun working its way, coming up above that hill. Nice high peaks. Saw a couple elk this morning. There we go. A couple laying around right there. Just hanging out on that little hillside. When you do this, start heating up your pot slow. But believe it or not, you'll burn your bottom of your pot before the snow even gets to melt. One of the things I'd recommend, and that I've learned anytime I'm hiking really, carry a stainless steel bottle. If you're in a situation where you need to boil water in order to sanitize it, or winter camping like this one, all of our water freezes, at least I can set these out by the fire in the morning and heat them up. While we're melting snow for our breakfast and our coffee, our drinking water, we can just sit by the fire. They were frozen solid, no longer frozen, so now we got our water. I also recommend getting one of these 4x8 emergency tarps. They act as an emergency blanket because they got the reflective material. But we set it up last night. I just use my hiking poles. I hook my hiking pole up to a corner, and then I run a small piece of twine and I stake it down. Here I just sharpened a stick and made a sharp stake. But this just having a wind block, and right now the sun came out, and just having a fire in front of us and the heat reflecting off of this and the sun reflecting off of this, our backs are comfortable. It's nice not having a breeze touching you. It's a really simple thing to bring along, not just for an emergency, but for a wind shelter and a heat reflector. It's so much better in the winter to have it.
The emergency tarp that we used for our wind block also works great for laying on the ground so that you can put your gear on it without it getting all wet from the snow.